I am Samugeli Siwenyoga, and I am a casework consultant. Okay, and just a bit about myself. I was actually also in your position a couple of years ago. I was also a first year in audit, and I know the feeling when you're entering the industry, you're happy, you have all your technical knowledge intact, and you just want to see what is in the field and what the field requires to do. Yes. Please just remember to stay muted for the rest of the session so that when we take out this recording, we have good quality recording. Okay. Yes, as I was saying, I was also in your shoes. And I think one of the most interesting thing that happens when you start in audit is, Muteo, can you just kindly assist me with muting the participants?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that happens when you join audit and that you notice as a first year, because this level 1 is designed for first years. So the first thing that you realize is that actually we have softwares. So it's more than just me auditing and applying my technical knowledge, but there's also softwares that are used that you'd also need to know about. Let me just mute all participants again. Okay, and the reason we have softwares is really not that you don't apply yourself as a professional or that you're just gonna perform the procedures that you're given, then it's done. No. So what happened is that we looked at the amount of work that the auditor is required to do with a limited period, within this limited period of time, the amount of professional judgment that they would have to apply, and also looking at the fact that you have this limited time and you have to understand this company within that limited time. And some entities are actually big corporates with complex systems that you have to just gain an understanding of. So to balance the quality of your work, ensuring that you still comply with the ISA requirements, but also being efficient because we're working within the tight deadlines, then software entities had to come and actually, like Caseware as well, in our case here, had to come in place to now say, how can we assist an auditor to have good quality audit, be compliant with the ISA requirements, be efficient, and also bring consistency throughout all the engagements, because ideally we want all the engagements in the firm to be performed in a consistent manner. That's how we now have these templates. Okay, so today what we'll be doing is I'll just introduce you to the Audit International methodology. Then afterwards, I will take you through the experience of working in Audit International template. Again, there's just going to be a lot of content that I'll be covering in a short span of time, but remember that this session is recorded and it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel in a few days. If you want to maybe see some notifications as to when it's uploaded, you can just go and subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so that the moment these sessions are uploaded, you also get notified. Okay. And how that will help is you can then go over the material at your own pace. Okay. This is our entire ecosystem. So we don't only produce the external audit solutions, we have many other solutions. These were introduced to you in the introduction session, so I won't go through them, but we're providing a lot. But today we're just going to be focusing on Audit International template. All right, so let's just look at the methodology itself.
Oh, we are
Let me
about
just try
to
to mute
on top.
again. Mute everyone. Okay. The Audit International methodology, what is it and how does it come about? So we first have our normal international auditing standard, right, which have principles on how to audit. But what happens is that each audit firm decides on how they're going to apply these principles in the auditing standards. That's how the methodology, the audit methodology comes about. So an audit methodology itself is a way in which the firm applies the auditing standards. Then how the Audit International methodology and the Audit International template comes in is we have this Audit International template that is built into our Caseware working paper software. What the template has is it has a methodology in it, which is guidance on how to apply the ISOs, right? And that methodology is called Audit International methodology. What happens when we sell these products, then each firm starts tailoring some parts of the methodology as well to match their firm methodology. Okay. Then another thing that you have to know about the Audit International methodology is that it focuses on a risk-based approach, just like the normal audit and the principles that are emphasized in the normal audit. What happens is you start in an engagement, you understand your client, then you record the risks, you can track them. Afterwards, you do what we call a risk assessment, where you are scoring those risks between high, medium, low, and insignificant. Afterwards, then the extent of the work that you will perform will now be linked to how high or how low the risk you've identified. I'll show you how this risk-based approach is built into our software shortly. Okay, so that was just a brief introduction to our methodology. Now, let us look at the audit process itself. So the audit process involves your client acceptance and continuance. We do have documents that speak on that, but that is mostly level two content. Let me just start here. I want to populate everything. Yeah, okay. So that is mostly level 2 content. So for those who have assigned, who are assigned to level 2, they'll see that again with the planning of the engagement. But for level 1, our focus is on execution. Okay. Then we have the finalization, which is the level 3 content. Okay. So what I want to take you through now that we know the methodology and we've seen the process and where our sessions with our 3 series of sessions will be focusing on in the next couple of weeks, then let us just look at the tool and what you'll experience as you work on the tool. We have the tool, again, I've introduced to you the methodology built in, but we have the experience of working in the Audit International template. We have profiles. So for the file, as the file is created, users are made to select the profile of the engagement. The profiling of the engagement now decides on the amount of content and the amount of tools you will find inside. We have these 6 categories. The first 4, your minimal, basic, one form, and one form plus, are mainly for your small engagements, some being like your agreed upon procedures, and they have minimal tools on them, right? Then we have your core. Core has almost a lot of tools, and I think you'll use it for like your medium engagements. And actually most engagements are based on the core profile. How the tailor per engagement now comes in is with your large entities, which can be maybe group audits or or a client that has its own internal audit function, like a big engagement, then you base it on tailor per engagement. One tip I can just give you with these tools is, for maximum amount of tools and content, use either core or tailor per engagement. Again, you are very much open, and you do still have an option to use your smaller profiles should that fit the profile of your client. Okay, so that was the first part of how the tool comes about. The second part of the tool is within the template. So when you start using the template, there is a very nice tool. Again, it's just, this one is specifically tailored for the inexperienced users. Again, it is actually more to it than what I'll tell you today about it. So this tool is called the digital dashboard. A part of it is your setup. So instead of you knowing that, okay, to import, I need to click here to optimize the engagement, I need to click here. The engagement setup gives you, so this tool called the digital dashboard will give you step-by-step guidance as to what comes first, what follows, and or take you through all those steps. That would be this this panel here, all right, which is called engagement setup. There's also another panel called workflow panel. This is the panel that provides you with the step-by-step guidance on how to navigate the phases in the audit engagement. So should you be, let's say you want to see how the financial statement area looks like, you can just click on the financial statement area instead of scrolling through your document manager, which has a list of all the documents that are in the file. This is an alternative tool you can use. Okay, then what else is built in? Another thing that we have in the template that you will see a lot is we have risk dialogues, control dialogues, and reportable item dialogues. What these tools are, they are for you to record your risks, record your controls, and your reportable items. And how they have been placed, the logic behind them is, throughout the engagement, you will be identifying risks. And instead of you going to a specific document to document the risks, the tool provides you this feature for risks specifically. And how this feature works is that in each and every document you'll be working on, there is a risk dialogue that allows you to just click on it, then record the new risk that you've identified. You'll notice that identifying risks is not only something that we do in planning, actually. You can identify even new risks during your execution phase and some other new risks during your finalization phase as well. So we're saying here is a tool. This tool allows you to document the risk from any document in the file. Any document just has an icon there that allows you to document your risk. Automatically, this risk will then be automatically populated in a document called the risk report. So the risk report is automatically populated, but you don't have to go there and then update the risk report. The moment you identify a risk, you just go in, then you go click that icon and you identify the risk. But that content is really not for audit level 1. In audit level 2, we cover this in more depth in terms of how the risk dialogue, the control dialogues, and the reportable items work. But that is mainly why they were built. They are just there for ease and for convenience in you recording your risks, documenting your controls, and also documenting your reportable items should you have any. Okay. We mentioned earlier on that we are supporting a risk-based engagement. So what happens because as a first year, you are barely actually involved in the planning of the engagement for understandable reasons, really. You are mostly involved in the execution level. But how for them to say we are assigning you cash and cash equivalents for you to audit, there's a lot of decision making that had been taken, and there's a lot of work that would have been taken and applying of professional judgment that would say we want to scope in the cash and cash equivalents. One of them is for remember that we're saying that we fit here on the execution where we are actually where we are actually executing the audit work for the specific sections that we are assigned to, because we don't audit the entire trial balance. Okay, so for us to audit, we first look at the items that have a significant risk. Significant in this case does not mean that the account or the financial statement area is material. It's significant because it has the risk that has been assigned to it, and that risk is greater than insignificant. This is also not the work of the first year, it's the work of your seniors. So they do go through a process, and that process is called scoping. That's when you decide that, okay, I have a risk that has to do with the trade receivables, for instance, and the relevant accession is defined being the accession that has a risk attached to it. The relevant accession, maybe in our instance, is completeness. Then the requirement per the standards would be that you now have to obtain a system description for that financial. Let me just mute all participants. I heard something again. This will now, okay, so for that financial statement area that has a risk assigned to it, and that accession that we've determined to be our relevant accession, we then obtain a system description just to understand the information flow in for that specific financial statement area. Then this is when they then decide that here is your trade and other receivables that you have to audit. So you see how it comes to a point where you just get assigned a section. There's a lot of thought process. With the material sections, again, there's a whole thought process that is applied there to scope them in to say, okay, if it's just material, maybe it doesn't even have a risk assigned to it. We'll just maybe test one of the accessions that we have there. Again, there's also some sections that are not even meeting this criteria, but they're just added in for audit for unpredictability. And those are concepts that you know about. So that's the whole process of scoping in theory. But how does it work in the software? In the software, we have this tool. This tool is called the Financial Statement Area Worksheet. You'll be introduced to it when you do the level 2 sessions, but for level 1, we're just introducing you to the theory of it. How this tool works is that the moment you import the trial balance of the client, it goes in and it populates all the balances automatically. The moment you fill out the form for materiality calculation, it goes in and it takes that information automatically again, it populates it. As you understand and identify risks and controls associated with a specific work area or a specific class of accounts, it goes in and it populates those risks in these documents. So this is why we call it the heart of the file, because whatever happens in execution is decided in the financial area worksheet. So this is where we finalize as well our Okay, so there's a report that is called the risk control, the control matrix as well, that comes and populates automatically to this document that we call the heart of the file. And you finalize your audit plan. This is when you're now deciding of the extent of work, the type of procedures that you need. You decide them on the financial statement area worksheet. So anytime you get assigned a section, do go back to the document called the financial statement area worksheet so that you can just get all the information about why exactly did they assign you this section? Was it because it has a risk assigned to it? And what was, if you just want, if you're curious about the thought process behind the scoping of the section you were assigned, you will have to go to the financial statement area worksheet. But in your audit program, there's going to be a mini risk report there that takes you through that. But we'll see the mini risk reports when we go to the upcoming session. But for now, I just wanted you to know that this is where your audit plan comes in. So everything that was done in planning, it all goes to your financial statement area. And the work and the extent of work that you'll be doing in your execution is decided on in the financial statement area. Okay. You will see then, this is exciting. I know this part is the most exciting part to see that, well, there are actually procedures that have been built in for you. Okay. But does this mean now that you will just execute these procedures as they're built in and not apply yourself? No, no. Actually, you are just guided. These procedures are not authoritative. What is the word? They're, let me say, they're not compulsory that you do them. They're not authoritative, but you will need to apply your judgment to say, actually, this procedure, I see that it talks about these items. This is how I will execute it. So they are editable, like because it's a template, they are fully editable. And we have the procedures that have been built in for you just to guide you on what procedures to think about to now respond to the risk that was identified during the planning phase. Or let me just not say during the planning phase, the risk that I identified, and leave it at that. One thing I want you to note as you respond now because you need to document what you actually did, right? As you respond to these procedures, please do not forget the documentation requirements. So we have ISA 230 that has the documentation requirements which guide you on the extent of documentation that we want you to document, or the ISAs require you to document. One of the requirements there is that you need to document the identifying characteristics of an item or matters that you've tested. You will see as you go through the audit or as you get introduced to the audit, when you audit an invoice, you cannot just say, document that I audited 5 invoices and everything was correct. But you need to document the invoices by number to say, I audited invoice number XXX and the amounts were correct. So the reason for that is, should your manager or an external reviewer or the audit partner want to come in and re-perform the work that you did, they should be in a standing where they can, because you just wrote that much extent of detail. And the way you document should be so understandable that a third party should be able to understand exactly what you did. And if you happen to have made an inquiry to a person, write them by name as well, to say, I inquired with Mr. XX, who is the financial manager. So that's the amount of detail that you put in your documentation. We will also have some examples in the upcoming sessions. So the most critical thing with audit is really the documentation part. And there's this normal saying that we say, which is if it's not documented, it's not done, right? So please document as much as you can. Another thing, you'll have to sign off after documenting each and every procedure. I will show you how the sign off tool works. Then your reviewers will come in, review, and they will also sign off the work that they did. All right. Then we have, let me just check if we still have the time. Oh, we don't have the time anymore, but this is actually the last slide. Then another thing you'll see as you're working through the tool is that after you execute, you are likely to have findings. Those findings, you'll get misstatements, and with the misstatements that are below clearly trivial, we know what to do with them. And with those ones that maybe after extrapolation, they become bigger than the clearly trivial, then they will go to the statement of overs and unders. That we don't really cover in the execution phase for the level ones, but I might actually show you how that works. Okay, so the tool doesn't actually end here. There's many other tools that are built in to now evaluate your misstatements, to form an opinion, and to do some quality check on your audit work, right? That is basically the experience of how the standards are built into the tool to assist you with compliance and consistency, all right? But yeah, so that's the only content I had for you today in our 30 minutes. So as you're working on a tool, you might get some issues. Should you get stuck, please feel free to contact our support team. And they are available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is their account. This is their telephone number. And you can also book a consultant here to just say, actually, tomorrow at 7 a.m., can I just sit with a consultant to assist me? Let's say I'm importing a trial balance, but it's duplicating figures, something. Should you have any issues, really, just contact our support team. There's also a chat box. This is all in our casework community. So if you scan the QR code here, it's going to take you to the community. You can also go to the chat with us functionality available on our page, which you'll first chat to a chatbot, then afterwards you'll wait on a queue for a support consultant to assist you. The tools that we are covering in this training are specifically tailored for first years, but we're not covering everything. And I'm sure you've seen that I'm just going through things in overview. To know how to use the actual tools, please just book one of our trainings. And to get a training, you need to scan this QR code and check for any upcoming webinars in the Audit International template. All right. Then should you have any questions regarding the Get Ahead series or anything that I've actually covered in this session, please feel free to contact our Get Ahead administrator. This is the email address, which is caseway.getahead@adaptit.com. All right. Basically, what we covered today, I was just trying to introduce you to the software so that you know the template and you know some tools to expect on it. Then I introduced to you a methodology. But as we go in, as we continue with our sessions, we're going to have session 2 on the 13th of March and session 3 on the 20th of March, where we'll also be covering this in more detail to now say, this session is actually at 9 o'clock, not 13 hours. So we'll be covering the execution phase in great details. Also, there are videos in our e-learning. please go through those videos. Let me just do this. Go to this next slide. You'll notice that before this session, how we had planned is that we're meant to actually go through some modules that are available in our e-learning. Please go through those modules. Especially, I know that this is towards the stock count days. It would be nice to actually go through that video about stock counts so that when you get there, you're not entirely clueless about stock counts and what decisions placed the team to a point where they have to do a stock count. And also there's a video that takes you in detail about the Audit International methodology and some tools that are covered there. For the upcoming session on the 13th of March, also in the e-learning, there's module 2 that we encourage you to actually do go through it before you come to the session so that you can ask some questions during the session and we'll be there to assist you. Again, for session 3, there's some e-learning material that we expect you to go through. I do see a hand. Please just type in the chat box if you have a question, then we'll get to your questions. Let me just see if we have any questions. I know we are way above time, and I appreciate that you okay. Let's see the questions. Let's say I documented the invoice number in the example you've given. It's mandatory to attach. Nothing specifically states that you. Okay, so the question is, let's say I documented the invoice numbers in the examples you've given. Is it mandatory to attach the invoices? There's no specific requirement that says attach all your audit evidence in the file. But if we are saying that we want to put, so should anyone try to reperform the work that you did, and we're trying to put them in the position where they can reperform the work, it's important that you actually include the supporting evidence in your file. And I think thinking of audit as an investigation, which it's not really, but if you think of it in that sense, that it would be good to have supporting evidence within your file. Our tools do support you creating folders and attaching all your files there, but it's not mandatory to do that. Okay, let's say my sample is made of 70 transactions under sales, and I've vouched all the 70. Should I have attached? The requirement is not that. The requirement is just that specify the identifying characteristic of that invoice, to say you inspected invoice number, then you put that invoice number with you attaching the supporting information to the file. Now that is just the courtesy from you to say, should the partner want to actually see those documents and to reperform their work, they can just actually go and click here and you link it, which I'll also show you how to link the supporting evidence to your files. Okay. But thank you very much as well for asking the questions. Then I hope that did answer you. One last thing from my side, if you still have any questions, please do feel free to ask them. I will just remain in the session to respond to them, even if you end up finding them only in the recording. One last part is that we really would like to hear from you in terms of how much you would, what's your experience with the series? What do you think we should improve in the future? Please just document in the, so I've attached a link to our form there. So it's Get Ahead 2026, level 3, session 1. Then you can fill out that form to just give us feedback as to your experience with the file. How do we get the training material. Okay, I will just attach the link to the training material. Where is it? 1 second, I'll get the link just now and attach it. There you go. Copy link and paste it. Okay. This is the link that will take you to the training material. If you want to get the slides, so the training material there is for the e-learnings, right? If you want to get the slides to today's session, you will get them there. And if you want to go through the recording of the session and do your pause where you want to pause and everything, you can also do that by just going to our YouTube page. I think I've attached the link to our YouTube page as well, where you can, okay, yeah, there you go, got it. So on YouTube, you can just go there and put your and actually go through the recording of this session. All right. I'm just checking if there's any more questions, but for now, I think that's all I had for you. Thank you very much for joining and for allowing me to take you 15 minutes above that time. All right. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Please do not forget to fill out the review documents just to give us feedback as to how the session went. Okay.